All right, and we're back. So I'm in a little bit of a conundrum here because I'm a little bit short on the hooks or my preferred hook, um, which is a 2/0 uh, Gaelic Supreme. So I'm just digging through my collection of hooks to see if anything is sparking my interest. Um, okay. There was a time in my life when I thought I was going to be tying on a lot of 5/0 hooks. So I have a lot of 5/0 hooks. And really, I prefer smaller sizes these days, 3/0 or smaller. Part of it is just it's easier to find materials large enough in that size range. Um, you get up to like the 4/0s, 5/0s, 6/0 size hooks, and finding materials that are large enough to tie on those hooks can be a challenge. So let's see, what do we have in here? I want something that is large enough for you all to see, but again, something in the 3/0 or 2/0 range. Because that happens to be the size of materials that I have on hand right now. Let me see. All right, so I think we will go with I'm just going to do a little bit of body work. I had a whole bunch of underbodies made. I think I think I might have lost lost a few of them in our recent move. So I have a Ron Lucas. This is a Ron Lucas. I can't read that. This is a Jock Scott. It's 5/0, but I think these 5/0s run just a little bit small compared to some of the other styles. So there's not a terribly large 5/0 hook. All right. I haven't entirely figured out what I'm going to tie on it just yet, but we'll get started. And I like the Jock Scott style of hook because it's got a slightly thicker wire, which I don't know. I think just balances, uh, salmon flies well. A lot of salmon flies, particularly common recipes like Green Highlanders or Jack Scott's, call for a lot of materials to be put on the hook, and that can sometimes cause hooks to look too small. Particularly these days when people are putting on these really thick underbodies under their floss and their furs, and so you get like a really chunky body on a really skinny hook. So I'm just going to cut off a little bit of. I got a little bit of silk, twisted silk gut for the eye. Just going to soften it a little bit so I can tie it on the hook. All right, I'll put this away. In the meantime, let's think a little bit about what I want to tie here. Yeah. If you want to wade in on the comments and the chat, go ahead. No guarantees I'll have the materials to tie. Whatever chat would like, but you know, open to suggestions. And the other option is I could just tie something completely freestyle. These Ron Lucas hooks are such great platforms for doing so. Let me see here. So many options. One of the let me right. While I am waiting for that to load. Let's see. I'm over on www.kenswada.com. Even though his Ken Swada's shop is closed, he's no longer selling, salmon fly materials. He still has a really great catalog of patterns. And I'm just perusing. Let's see, Francis, or sorry, that was ephemera. Now I'm looking at Francis, just trying to see if there's anything that catches my eye. Man, if I recall, there was a fly that I had started a while ago. I don't remember what it was called. I just remember what it kind of started to look like. Anyway, got a little bit of time to think about it because I've got an underbody to do and a gut eye to attach. So I'm going to wax up my thread just a little bit, just to start it. Sorry, it's not very graceful. I'm going to tie on the gut. Trim the ends. A little bit more wax. So now that that's secure, and again, because this fly is just for display, I'm only going to do a short eye on it. If this was for fishing, I'd take the gut and I'd leave it all the way down to where the butt would be, just because that's a much more secure connection between the eye and the hook. But again, since this is just for display, hopefully nobody will fish it. If they do, I can't guarantee the eye would hold. So there's that. For the underbody, I like to use uni stretch. I have gray on here right now. Normally I'd use white, but I could only find gray. Just gonna put down, and because I'm tying, I'm probably gonna end up tying an older fly. You know, just a standard recipe. I'm not actually gonna give it that chunky of a body. I am still haven't found what I'm looking for. And I think there's a song about that. Gosh. I'd started this fly, I had needed to restart it or recycle it, and now I just can't find or remember what it was. I'd say I do really love like the older patterns, like the ones from Ephemera. just because they're so unusual compared to what we traditionally think of as or what we today think of as a traditional looking salmon fly. Um, hmm. Could have sworn it was from ephemera, but I'm sure I will think of it halfway through this fly in a pretty typical fashion. Hmm. Let's. The reason why I'm being a little bit picky is because this is a really nice hook, and I want to tie something that's stands out on the hook. But you know, is something that I actually have the materials for. Right now, I'm just a little bit low on some of my turkey colors, so I just want to make sure that it's something I can actually tie. And I also want it to be something interesting as well. You know, I don't tie a lot of green Highlanders or Jock Scots, and the reason for that is just they're overtied, in my opinion. You see so many of them, and they're considered like the archetypical uh, salmon fly. When there are really thousands maybe of really different and interesting salmon flies. So I like to tie things that are a little bit more rare or a little bit more rarely seen, just because they're a little bit maybe a little bit more esoteric or a little bit different. Um, let's see. Ooh, no, definitely don't have the feathers for that one. Um, no, that's a little too simple. Okay. Man, I am striking out on interesting flies today. I also want to demonstrate a different or a technique that I haven't shown. I've done a lot of dubbed bodies on the stream recently, or on the Twitch stream. So I'm looking for a body which is floss, mostly floss. Okay. Okay, so I'm not seeing exactly what I'm interested in, or exactly what I was thinking of. So I am going to do. Let's see. Is this it? Nope. Barrel. Man, there are just so many patterns to go through, and I made the mistake of not picking one before starting the stream. Um, what I am going to do, I think, is just a um, oh, no, I can't think of the name. Uh, er, let's do. Um, hmm. Here. Okay, so I'm going to do a Red Drummond. Um, I think it's a good fly to demonstrate a couple of different things, uh, and it's a classic. It's kind of in the same vein as like a Jock Scott, just in terms of its wing, or a Jock Scott or a Green Highlander in terms of its wing components, but you see it a little less often. So I'm just gonna. Underbodies are not the most exciting thing to watch. Um, and I'm going to take the underbody to where the tag would stop, not the tip, the tag. I'll turn it around there. I'm going to keep my thread flat, so that means I'm going to take all the twist out of it. Whenever it becomes a little too twisted. I'm only going to, and because again, this is a floss body fly, so I might do 3 layers of underbody here. But one of the really important things about laying down an underbody is it has to be smooth, or at least smoothable. Um, so we'll just do the body today, and then I'll do the wing tomorrow, kind of like I did for the Blue Doctor. Splitting it up that way, I think, works well, just to keep things, moving. Okay, now I need to make a decision as to whether this is enough underbody or not. And make sure it's a little flat. I might go one more layer actually, because again, this is a Red Drummond has the first segment is going to be tinsel, and the second segment is going to be floss. So neither the tinsel nor the floss are going to add that much bulk to the fly, and one of the challenges with an all floss body is that it can look a little bit anemic. You want it to be thick enough, but not too thick. And floss bodies without a sufficient underbody can look not thick enough, whereas dubbed bodies can definitely look too thick. So we're just going to give it a little bit more underbody so that the body has a little bit more body. It's not quite as smooth of a transition as I wanted. There we go. And also remember that you'll be tying materials over the underbody, and that'll help add to the bulk as well. You just want to have a good, solid foundation to start on. So take that there. We'll finish this. Okay. Let's get underbody. We're going to start our fine thread a little bit down the shank from where we would start the tag. Tag on there. Okay, so now we got to do the tip. Tip is oval silver, or round silver, tinsel. So let's see. We're going to, of course, be using antique silver, antique tinsels, because if you got them, use them. Definitely very fortunate to have antique tinsels. On hand. And because this is such a fine tinsel, I'm going to do quite a few reps, so maybe 6 or more. Back our thread off. Tie down our tinsel. Okay, so that's the tip. Kind of sort of see it. Now I need to do the tag, which is yellow silk. The sun's going down for us here, and I know that the light is going to go away, and it's going to be pretty difficult. Or the image quality on my camera is going to go down. So I'm going to try and get through as much of this as I can before it gets too dark and the quality goes away. Unfortunately, my office is not terribly well lit at the moment. I'm working on fixing that. So this is just Japanese embroidery silk. Very fine quality. Goes on nice and flat. Just tie the end down. Okay. Next is the tail, and that is a golden pheasant crest. And go something like that. That actually looks pretty good as is. So let's trim it up. The way I trim it is I just trim the little fuzzies off. I don't know if you can see that. trim it down so that's still got a little bit of stubble right here at the end. That stubble just gives the thread a little extra purchase on the feather and helps keep it from twisting as you tie it in. Say that as it twists massively. No, it's fine. Just helps lock it in a little bit. Make sure it's straight on the hook. Perfect. Just going to bind that down. Next up is a tail veiling. Excuse me. Tail veiling is Indian crow. I'm going to use a substitute because Indian crow is both rare and expensive. So the Indian crow sub that I have and prefer to use on a normal day. Oh, wrong door. Is get this drawer all the way open. Is Red Weaver, and well, this Red Weaver skin that I have is a little bit used because I use it a lot, but it's got these beautiful kind of orangey red feathers, which do a pretty good job of coming close to Indian crow in color. They're not quite the same in terms of their structure. So they're not quite perfect. But again, this is a substitute because Indian crow is rare and expensive. And, um, these red weaver skins can be found at, a decent price. And a lot of them come from museum like taxidermy. And what happens is, if a taxidermy mount gets worn out, a museum might get rid of it. And there are people who will scavenge these taxidermy mounts for feathers. And, it's just kind of giving these taxidermy mounts a little extra life. Reduce, reuse, recycle, all that. So that goes on, lays nice and flat. Then there is a butt. It's got an ostrich curl butt. And do I go for a thick butt? So I got several different. There's some very nice ostrich curl from John McLean and Terry at feathersmc.com. It's where I get most of my fly tying material, classic fly tying materials from, that is. And John's a nice guy. Tell him that Brad sent you if you give him any business. Always great quality materials. And super helpful. Might see him at some of the shows this year. All right, so before I tie this in, however, I am going to wax my thread because ostrich hurls can be pretty slippery. So you just want to make sure that this the hurl is well held. And also, waxing the thread just kind of helps tame any extra fuzzies that you might have hanging off your fly. So I'm going to advance the thread, just get out of the way. Use my favorite hackle pliers, which are these kind of articulated jobs. Forget who made these, but these are really old. The jaws are a little bit worn here. They still do the trick. Now I'm just going to brush the barbs or the fibers on the hurl to the back. I'm not actually folding the hurl. I know some people think I am, but I'm just making sure that they don't get caught under the stem as I wrap the hurl forward. So that is a nice, beautiful, dense hurl for the hurl butt. And I think for tonight, I'm going to call it there because the light is getting pretty dim. Uh, we are in the winter solstice. I think that's right. It's the first day of winter. It's the shortest day. So it is already getting dark here, and my video quality is just going to deteriorate. So I want to be able to show you guys as much as I can. So for today, I'm going to call it a night. Thanks for hanging out. Sorry, it was a little bit slow getting this fly off the ground. But again, it's going to be a Red Drummond. I'm going to finish the body tomorrow in a stream. I think I'm going to be back here on YouTube instead of Twitch. I think YouTube just has a better audience for this kind of thing. And thanks for hanging out. Again, if you want to see more of my work, Instagram at justwondering.brad. And if you want to buy any of these flies, it's Etsy. My Etsy shop is Studio1213. Thanks for hanging out. If you enjoyed this, like, comment, subscribe. Helps me out. And have a good night.